Hi everyone, it's Jen again. I'm here with another weekly update on my role-playing game, Dice Battler hybrid visual novel Arcane Dice Wars that I am making in RenPy. And this past week or so, I have been working on implementing the monsters. So the monsters behave a little bit differently than the humanoid opponents in this game. So there's kind of an extra layer, excuse me cat, of strategy that I am going to add to the, let's go to this testing thing, that I'm going to add to the players kind of like little strategy tab. There's a lot of filler text for this area that I just kind of like copied and pasted from like the last exploration, kind of like dungeon type area. So all of this text will be replaced with the story appropriate text when I get around to scripting. So here we have a couple added things. I went ahead and gave each of the factions their own icon to make it easier to see what the faction of the person or monster is. I noticed, like when I was playing and with playtesters, that it seems to be easier to kind of check the elemental bonuses than it does with the faction bonuses. So I'm hoping with these kind of added icons that makes it a little bit easier to think in terms of like faction bonuses and weaknesses. The other thing is, of course, because these monsters have an added mechanic, they've got a frenzy mode where their dice value will basically double, so you want to not have them go into frenzy mode. And one way to do that is to have their opposite class in. So I'm going to refer to this mechanic as subjugation. So basically you have to subdue the monsters with their opposite or their faction that they're weak against, or they will start turn one in frenzy. So with like this fire spider here, arachnid, we need to counter that priest type with rogue type. We can go to here to the tactics, and I'm going to add extra tactics to explain the frenzy mechanic. Like maybe here I'll call it like monster or subdue or something. So with this faction kind of like wheel here, we can see that rogues are strong against priests. So in order to subdue the monster spider, we're going to have to put a rogue unit in there somewhere. And so with the vermin, we need to put a knight unit, and with the bat creature here, mage, we need to have a priest character. So monsters also don't have the limitation of placement the way the humanoid characters do. So it's possible to have like a party of like 3 mages, which actually is kind of useful for building up your faction bonuses as long as you can counter that. And in the case of monsters, factions are actually going to be more important than element, because again, you don't want them to go into frenzy mode. Versus humanoid characters are limited to the number of the same faction that they can have in the party due to the kind of limited placement that each of the human factions have. So the whole kind of idea with monsters is that the faction is going to be more important than the element, versus when you were kind of fighting against humanoid characters, you could focus more on the element, and the factions wouldn't be quite as important because, again, you couldn't run into like 3 of the same factions. So faction bonuses were never as big as elemental bonuses, where you could run into 3 of the same element. So there's also kind of a priority of like which monsters are sort of like the most dangerous when they get into frenzy. So Right now, Frenzy is also on a timer that even if you subdue them with the opposite class, they will eventually go into Frenzy if the battle goes on for too long. And the higher the dice, the longer it takes them to go into Frenzy. So like this Mage Bat character here has a D10, so if they go into Frenzy, then that's essentially giving them like a D20. But they won't go into Frenzy until turn 11 as long as they are subdued at the start. So this would be like the character that I would try to make sure that I have subdued on turn 1, because on turn 1 I don't want them to have a d20. So we have to make sure to put a priest character in there. I'm going to go ahead and use Samuel for that. And then for this Vermin character is a d8, so that's probably going to be my second priority, that I want to put a knight character in there. And then we'll go ahead and put a counter for this character too. And we might as well use all of our named units. Well, maybe I will. This is a level 5, so our bonuses are also going to be very amplified, and the monsters are going to have a bonus. So it really has to also take care of that elemental bonus. So I don't want to have an earth character in there, I don't think, because there's really no advantage and only disadvantage of putting an earth character in there. So rather than the named, I think I'm going to go ahead and put like, let's put a water rogue in there, and then we'll put Samuel in the last slot, and let's see how this goes. Okay, so they have a bonus of 17. That's pretty unfortunate, and I wasn't able to do much for like countering. I guess at least they're not in Frenzy.
Shall we entertain our patrons?
And we're probably going to have to rely pretty heavily on our skills, so we're going to save our MP and not be spending that on increasing our gold. And thankfully his skill triggered, so that will help negate some of that bonus. And we can keep it like fairly even there, because again, Ruin was able there to use his retaliation to like kind of keep us on par. But we're really going to be relying heavily on this boost morale to kind of keep up with the enemy's damage bonus there. And because these two characters have bond levels of 4, then my morale bonuses are also boost. And his retaliation damage also gets a bonus here. So he is actually able to counter them with the same amount of damage, because he can get up to a +4 on that, as long as it doesn't exceed the enemy's damage. This is the scary round because I don't have any morale boost. Oof, if we can survive this next round though, then we can take this match. So let's hope that we actually win this next skirmish with our morale boost here. I don't know if that's gonna be enough. No, we lost. Alright, well, a 12-point disadvantage was pretty horrible. At least it ended without them frenzying, though, I guess. That could have gone anyway in the fourth match. We could have gotten lucky. But unfortunately, we basically rolled a 1 on our morale boost, which was unfortunate. And yeah, that was just kind of sad. And it wasn't a good matchup either. Like the matchup was tough. That was just a tough match. All right, let's try this again. So here we want to try. It's a level 1, so hopefully it won't be quite as punishing or challenging. We've got a serpent who will frenzy earlier than the other characters because they're D4, so they frenzy on turn 5, but not quite as threatening because their frenzy only basically gives them a D8. They're going to be my lowest priority to subdue, because the chances of me like concluding that match before they frenzy, or their frenzy even having like a huge effect on the tide of battle, is not a big deal. So again, I definitely want to counter this mage. We do not want them to frenzy on turn 1, so again, priest character, and actually the air attribute is going to be perfect for that. Rogue is going to go against the spider, so I think we can safely put in counter this time. And then mage is going to counter the serpent. I think I have an air mage, so I am actually going to slide these guys over.
Let's enjoy a fair match.
I'm feeling kind of confident. Let's see if we can earn some extra money to make up for our loss the last match. And there we go. Easy win. Well, since I've been talking about Frenzy, but we haven't actually seen Frenzy, let's go ahead and purposely have a Frenzied monster on turn 1. The next match I'm going to not subdue, and we're going to see how that goes. Oh, one of the other things that I've also done differently in this new map, I haven't finished it yet, but one of the, this is all just like the same convo from the last thing. Alright, so we're gonna see how horrible it is not to counter these, subdue these mage bats, by not putting a priest in there. I'm not gonna put myself at a... Let's go ahead and do some air units here. Do an air mage, and we'll just put cat right there too. So we can see that they're frenzied. They've got that kind of like glowing outline.
This could be interesting.
And it says at the start of the turn that they're frenzied. And look at that. That is pretty horrific. So yeah, dead. We really want to conclude the battle before 11 rounds against those horrible bat creatures. But we especially don't want to start turn 1 in frenzy, because that is just, yeah, that was just brutal. Assuming that we want to win. And so we can see on this new map that it is a 2-level map. We've got little arrows that are showing. This arrow here at this square on the top, since we're on the top level, is actually to go up to the ground level, which would be to leave the dungeon. But if we descend, we go deeper into the sewers. And it's going to be necessary to go up and down to navigate your way around to certain areas on that first floor. You're going to need to go to this lower level to get around some of the dead ends. Let's go ahead and counter. Try to keep countering. Actually, there's no rogues there, so... Well, let's see what happens when we still counter that terrible mage bat. But maybe we don't care so much about these other guys, because they're not as huge of a threat when they're frenzied. So let's see what kind of opportunity we have when we maybe leave that air serpent alone. and focus a little bit more on just element. Yeah, let's just focus on element and countering that one bat who's like the worst. And let's see what happens. So we do have a 3-point advantage here. You can see here that the spider is frenzied because we did not counter that spider with a rogue. And yeah, rolled an 18. That's not good. We really don't want them to be frenzied. That is the other thing, is that the frenzy state, they have a 75% chance to double their dice, and they actually have a 25% chance to crit, which is like a triple value of their dice. So yeah, you really don't want them to be in frenzy. I may or may not decide to like nerf that later. I still have to play test it a little bit more, but I personally find the challenge like pretty fun. Because it really kind of forces you to have to think about faction more. Which was my whole goal with the frenzy mechanic. We're still doing alright here. I'm not gonna get greedy. We're just gonna end this. It's still possible. It's still possible to win. I think as long as you keep your static bonuses good, and you keep especially those bats, because they just get so gnarly when they get that crit in frenzy mode. They're just, as long as you can end it by turn 11 and not start with a frenzied bat, I think your chances are decent. The rats are pretty scary at frenzy too. Oh dear, what's this? So this is just an error with me not having the map complete. Because I'm still just kind of like testing stuff. So you can see that, if I get to the top of this, that there's a total of 77 rooms in the sewer, because on floor 1 there's 38, and on floor 2 there's 39. So I haven't finished all these locations yet, even just like the placeholder locations. So that's what that error is. I actually think that also screwed up here. Floor 1 or something. So I thought I read something like floor 1. Wasn't it? Servers 2 has that. Alright, well this doesn't exist, so this needs to go away. And this should be 4 too. And this can be an Aleph. Okay. That was from me doing typos earlier. So that actually did fix it. But yeah, that is what I have so far for implementing the monster mechanics, to kind of add another layer of strategy and emphasis on the faction priority system. Thanks for watching my progress on my project. Well, one last thing that I wanted to mention was a little bit thing on time management. Just to reiterate again, I am a full-time working mom, and I still find plenty of time to work on these games. And I think part of it is really how every time I end my video saying don't forget to enjoy the process, it really is a matter of like not thinking of all this stuff as work. Like people who say games are a lot of work. On one hand, yes, they are very time consuming and they require a lot of skills, and in order to create a game, you will be making a lot of stuff to make that work. But I don't really think of it as work. I think of it as play, and I think so much of like that idea of play is lost when you become an adult, because you're so aware of like your time as being like a commodity, and if you don't produce something in that amount of time, that it was a waste of time. And I don't like to think of my life as a waste of time. So do try to really enjoy the process. Don't get so hung up on where you're trying to get to, but where you are in that moment, and have fun with it. I make time for working on my game in small increments throughout the day because it gives me energy. It doesn't make me tired because I'm working on my game. It gives me energy because I'm playing around, having fun with something that I enjoy. So if you can find some type of a hobby or an interest that you enjoy doing, that gives you energy, that makes you excited to wake up in the morning, that allows you to play, yeah, don't let that be tarnished by what other people say. Don't let it be tarnished by like the pressure of like needing to monetize it or to advertise it or to have a certain amount of feedback. Allow yourself to just play. I personally find that it makes me a lot happier in life than just sitting around passively entertaining myself with like playing games and watching videos and getting lost on the internet. Those things are all well and fine, I guess, to an extent, but they honestly make me tired and make me depressed and unfulfilled. And if I can spend my time playing, whether that be making art, making games, making something, and who knows if any of that is any good or if anybody's gonna like it. I'm really not concerned with that right now. I just want to have fun in my life, and I find this kind of stuff like really fun. So I hope that you also have some type of a process that brings you joy, that makes you feel good about yourself, and that you can just allow yourself to have fun and play. Alright, enjoy the process, and I'll talk to you guys again later. Take care. Bye bye.